Welcome to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of congregational humanism. We carry on that tradition of free thought today, dedicated to promoting a free search for truth, meaning, and justice. Our web address is firstunitarian.org. Thank you for joining us.
Well, good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis on this glorious fall morning, October 18th. Welcome to each of you. Whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever your pronouns, however you identify, whoever you love, whatever is breaking your heart right now, present in body in this space, present in this moment with us online, you are welcome here. It is good to be together and to gather together as a community of seekers in this place where we commit ourselves to live out our common values, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to live out our dream of a world community of peace, safety, and justice for all beings. As we gather, let us attend to the needs to walk humbly upon this land, the traditional land of the Dakota Ojibway who still call this place home. Recognizing the history of genocide and colonialism and their right to justice and self-determination, may we be good allies, advocates, and partners with them. First Unitarian Society is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. My name is Shelley Schreffler. I'm a member of the Sundays Assemblies team, and I use she, her pronouns. Today, we are joined by our special guest, Sharon, leader of Nibi Walks and the executive director of Indigenous Peoples Task Force and the Anishinaabe Singers. We'll share more about our guests in a bit. Today's assembly will have a different format than what we usually have. Between the traditional lighting and extinguishing of the chalice, Sharon will lead us in the Ojibway spiritual practice of walking with water. We will contemplate the idea that we can do something every day to express gratitude to the water that harbors and sustains life on earth. Because of the special programming, we will not be sharing joys and concerns today, and we'll catch you all up on the news next week. As this is MEA weekend, there is no children's programming. However, our child care room, which is down the hall and to the left, and the multi-generational space here in the Assembly Hall are available as always. And if you happen to be new with us this morning, please join us for our weekly mini meal in the lower Assembly Hall after the service. And if you'd like to connect more, stop by the office to sign up to receive our newsletter so that you can be in the know about what is happening here. And so now I invite all of you, wherever you are, to take a moment to welcome the morning and to greet those around you and to introduce yourself to those you don't know. You can wave to the camera to greet those online, and there's also a QR code on the screen to access the order of service. So welcome all. So each week when we gather, we light our chalice as a symbol of Unitarian Universalism. We are led by its light, inspired by its flame, and drawn together by its warmth. We often light our chalice using words expressing our values and aspirations. Today we'll use words of Gregory Pelley. As Jane lights the flame, please join me in reading the words on the screen. And so we gather from the ebb and flow, thirsty for connection to ourselves, thirsty for connection to others, thirsty for connection to the larger life. As we light this chalice, may all who gather here be filled with hope, filled with compassion and love. Here may we be filled so that we may pour ourselves out into the world. And now that our chalice is lit, let's share in the reading of our congregational covenant. Love is the spirit of this place, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Thank you. I'm Rebecca Kramer. I'm a member here at at FUS with the Climate Action Team, the Climate Committee, which you will understand that in April we did a performance of the Council of All Beings, and I was, if you remember me, I was the glacier. I represented the glacier, and I spoke to the humans who were there, silently listening with big ears, to say what the gifts of glacier were to humans and the tragedy that is going to ensue if glaciers go away. Now, I have an introduction to make of Sharon and of the Asiganak singers, so let me start with Sharon. I've known of Sharon for a long time. When I came to the Twin Cities in 1982 to join a research team at the University of Minnesota studying cell biology, what was going on at the time was the HIV/AIDS epidemic worldwide and also here in the metro, and there were many people in public health and in virology and elsewhere who were going out to talk to people to try to, gather community so we could understand what was happening. And I was doing this with other academics, with teachers, K through 12 teachers, in a teacher institute from the Humanities Commission. I was charged to create a curriculum and talk to teachers who were going to be teaching children. And at that time, I heard that the person, or one of the people who was working within the Native American community in Minnesota and in the Twin Cities was Sharon Day. So I heard about Sharon's work at that time. And then later, in around the year 2000, I was, because I was in my neighborhood, I was working with others from the area and the country, really, to try to protect part of Minnehaha Falls that was going to be taken away so that Highway 55 could be straightened out and people could get faster from the airport to the downtown hotels. I guess they didn't realize the hotels were going to be built in Bloomington instead. But it was an effort by folks that called themselves Earth Firsters and all the Native American tribes in Minnesota to try to protect what we could of the trees and the water and the sacred spring at that time, Coldwater Spring. And Sharon was part of that. She was an inspiration. And in fact, it worked. The spring we lost a lot of trees, and that was very tragic, but the spring flows even today. And then it came the era of working to support the tribes in northern Minnesota who were trying to prevent an expansion of the oil pipeline that was coming from Canada. And the beginning of that pipeline, we're going to talk about the trees here again, because the beginning of the pipeline in Alberta and British Columbia required, these were tar sands that required whole swaths of arboreal forest, our lungs of North America, Turtle Island, to be removed so that they could get to this mixture of soil and sand and oil that was sitting there, and giant industrialization to extract the oil from the soil. And this was a very difficult time, and we raised the consciousness of many people, us who were supporting under the leadership who were supporting the leadership of the tribes in northern Minnesota to do that. And that, again, we may not have gotten everything. The Line 3 was built, but we raised a lot of consciousness, and people at that time changed from thinking themselves as water protesters, as pipeline protesters, but rather as water protectors. And that brings us to Sharon's work. She has taken her training as an Anishinaabe faith leader and her own creativity as an artist and her life as a grandmother to combine for creating a very new praxis that we're going to hear about today. So, right before we turn it over to Sharon, I'd like to introduce Louise Matson, who's one of the Esseginak singers. Louise is an executive director of the Division of Indian Work here in Minneapolis. And I met Louise because about 10 years ago, I realized that in my neighborhood of South Minneapolis, there was starting a dual language immersion program. We have our Spanish immersion now and German and Chinese, but this was to be a dual language immersion for Ojibway and Dakota children and their families to begin reclaiming their language. And of course, preservation of the language is all about preservation of ourselves and our nature and our own heritage. So I would like to ask Louise, who's here today not as executive director of DIW, but also as a singer of this a beautiful women's hand drumming group. So I'd like to ask Louise to introduce the other singers who are here today, and perhaps grace us with an opening song, and then Sharon will come up here to the podium and we will proceed with the program. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, Buju, good morning. Louise Matson, Indigenous, Makwandudam, Gawa Baba, Kinikag, and Dunjaba. My name is Louise Matson, and I'm Bear Clan from the White Earth Nation. And our group is just a group of friends that sing together. It kind of ebbs and flows. People come and go. We've sung with Sharon. And so we're just happy to be here to support Sharon and you all this morning. And I'll let the group members that are here today introduce themselves.
Good morning, I'm Pauline Danforth. My Ojibway name is Kiwitab Inesikwe, which means thunderbirds flying in a circle. I got that name as a child on the White Earth Reservation. I'm retired from Metropolitan State University, where I taught and advised for a long, long time.
Buju, Mariana, Indigenous, Jawanuikwe, in Dunjaba, or Inda, Gazakasquajimeikag, in Dunjaba. My name's Mariana Harstead. I am from the Leech Lake Band, and I'm enrolled, and I've been singing with several groups, including the Siganak Singers, for a while.
Buju Odemanagi Ikwe Indigu Emily Indigenous Makwa Indodame Baba Biginakag and Dunjaba. So good morning, I'm Emily Garai. I'm from the White Earth Nation. My spirit name is Heartberry's Woman. I'm a new singer. Louise is a dear friend of mine, as these other two wonderful ladies, and Sharon being very much a mentor, not only for me, but just for the community in general. So I'm really happy to be here with all of you and for us to sing and support.
So this song we're going to sing to you, it mimics the sound of the water. And we'll just go from there.
Good morning. Buju Ninindwe Magani Dug, Nagamo Ma Ingen Indigenous Cause, Wabashashin Dodem, Ojibway Koyan Down, Dishnejo Medeo, Mede Wanakoyan Dow. So greetings, my relatives. My name is Singing Wolf, and I'm from the Wabashashi clan. I'm Boys Ford Ojibway. All of my ancestors are from Boys Fort since the time of the reservation era. And I'm also second degree Medewan, and the Medewan is the Grand Medicine Society. And I guess that's the English translation, but more appropriate translation would be the Path of the Heartway. And I'm also Mede Wanakwe, which is one of the head water women. And I think it was 2008 when in our Three Fires Lodge, they raised up 8 of us at that time to be the head water women. And I was up in northern part of actually, I was at Madeline Island this week. But, you know, this week is a very exciting time, I think. Yesterday with the No Kings March, and how many of you participated in that? Yeah, very good. Yeah. I live in Center City, and the Center City is a very tiny little town, and I live just on about a mile out of town. And there's a town most people know better, which is Lindstrom, Minnesota, and even Lindstrom had an event yesterday, so that was very good. I think you know, yesterday happened because people are looking for and searching for kindness, love, and justice. And I think, you know, people are understanding that we do want to have a government by the people, for the people, right? Yes? Yes. And so we are living in extraordinary times. And I stayed up last night, and I wrote down everything I was going to say today, which is highly unusual, because I usually just say what's on my mind. But since I took the time last night to write this down, I'm going to go with it, okay? We are living in extraordinary times. And my ancestors predicted this would happen. They prophesied this time and the changes we would see come about. You know, long ago, we Anishinaabe, we lived on the eastern seaboard. And they say that if you were standing on a high point near the St. Lawrence Seaway, and you look south, you could see our tribal fires all the way to the Carolinas. So that's how, and we, at that time, we were called People of the Three Fires. So that was the Ojibway, and we were the Faith Keepers, and the Odawa, and they were like the emissaries, the ambassadors, and then the Potawatomi, who were the fire keepers. And we were people of the Three Fires. And so we were visited by 7 beings. These were grandmothers and grandfathers. And in the stories, they say that they had long silver hair, and that their hair was so silver, it sort of glowed. And that you couldn't really look at them because they were so beautiful. And they came to us and they told us these prophecies. And they said that there were people coming from across the ocean and that we should avoid them at all costs, and that we were to follow a Miga shell and go west. And so we were to follow the waterways and go west until we came to a place where food grows on the water. That food, of course, is monomen, the good grain. And one of the prophecies they said was that in the time of the seventh fire, a new people will emerge. And these new people on Turtle Island, where we reside today, would have to make a decision. And that decision would be to continue on this path of destruction. And there's no doubt that we are on this path of destruction. In less than in 300, 400 years, we've poisoned our waterways, the waterways that were pristine pre-contact. They said, continue on this path of destruction, or take this path that will lead us to the eighth fire. And in the time of the eighth fire, we will be in harmony with all things. And when we say harmony with all, when I greeted you today, and I said, Buju, Ninindwe Maganidug, I'm saying, greetings, my relatives. But I'm not just speaking to humankind. I'm speaking to the very air that we breathe, the trees that produce that air for us, the birds, the four-leggeds, the chickens that live on my farm. I'm saying greetings to everything. Everything is our relative. We believe that everything is animate, even the asin, the rocks. Everything has a vibration. Every single thing is animate. And so when we say, Buju Nindawe Magani Dug, greetings, my relatives, everything in the universe we're greeting. And also, I'm saying greetings to the Nibi, the water. So this past week, I was able to visit Madeline Island. And how many of you have been to Madeline Island? Okay, those of you who didn't raise your hand, go there. It is a magical place. And I was able to be there for a couple days for rest and relaxation. And I did do a little writing, and surprising how fast and much one can write when you're not constantly being interrupted by somebody nudging your elbow or the phone. Or so I did do a little writing. But we did hiking. We hiked the trails, and then on Thursday, I said, I cannot come to Madeline Island without going to that place on the eastern edge of the island, the place that still is held, protected by the Bad River Reservation, Bad Rivers across the bay. And we took a road, and I kind of thought it was the wrong road, but we kept going down it, and maybe it wasn't a wrong turn after all. Anyhow, going down this road, what did we come across? But a Maingan, this wolf, and he was coming towards us, and as we got close, the wolf turned and walked into the woods. So we continued down the road till it came to a dead end. It was indeed a wrong turn. And we came back, and when we came back again, who did we see again but the Maingan? and again, when we got close, turned and walked into the woods. And that is my namesake, the Mayingin. My name is Nagamo Mayingin, Singing Wolf. And so then we made our way the right way to that most eastern end of that island that points east. And we got out, and I offered some asema and sang a song. And as I stood there and looked toward the east, and looked to my right and to my left, this beautiful sandy beach. And looking forward, I could see Michigan Island, and beyond that, the Upper Peninsula, and to the south was Porcupine Mountains. You know, all of these places that we have to protect. And I thought to myself, you know, this is where my great-great-grandparents, not great-great-great-great, but my great-great-grandparents were in this very spot. Because that is a place where, when they came east, that must be the place where they landed. And, you know, we stayed there for a long time on Madeline Island. And then from there, those first treaties were written, and the bands and the clans dispersed to Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, North Dakota, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario, and where we still live today. And I thought about you know, what they must have felt like when they arrived at that point, that destination, that journey that took them, they say 500 years. And so it was beautiful. It was a very beautiful, beautiful place. And, you know, and I looked out at the water. It was a gray day. And so the water was blue, 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 blue. And then when you could see the skyline, it was dark blue. And then above that, it was darker blue. And then it lightened up. But just those colors of blue were so beautiful. It was, you know, you can't help but feel grateful. Grateful to be alive, grateful for the water. And, you know, which brings me to, you know, when they started their journey, the grandmothers and grandfathers told them, follow the Migas shell. And, you know, the Migas, to us, is so important. It lives in salt water, and I guess everybody else calls it a cowrie shell. But to us, it's the Migas. And in our ceremonies, we could not have our ceremonies without that Migas shell. And they said, follow that Migas shell. It will appear when it's time for you to move on. And so there are places they stopped along the way. And, you know, it's not like today, you know, you pack up your car with some groceries and, you know, you can go cross country in 4 days. You know, no, they had to, like, grow food along the way. They had to tap the maple trees. They had to fish. They had to dry fish and meat to take with them. And in the Odawa, they were the ones who would go ahead and they would tell people, you know, we're coming through, but we're not staying here. We're simply coming through. And so I think about, you know, they came through all of the Great Lakes. And sometimes they would, they say that when they got to by Detroit, they weren't quite sure where to go, and they'd been there for a while. And a little boy had a dream of a Migas shell, and the Miigwech shell was pointing the way, and so that's the way they went. And that fire, the Potawatomi, the firekeepers, they lit a fire at the beginning of that journey, and that same fire was kept alive all those years. But you know, I think they traveled in canoes on the waters, and you know, water is so incredible. The Nibi is so incredible. It is the only element that can move vertically, right? Goes up and down. It evaporates into the sky, and then it becomes rain or snow, and then as it falls, you know, the trees catch the rain, and they help it to come to the earth gently. And when it comes down as snow, you know, the snow flakes, they make their way together, right? Because one little tiny snowflake, you know, but you see them, you know, like they make their way together. And water's the only substance that also travels horizontally, right? The rivers, they flow mostly south, but they can also flow north, and they carry us in the canoe. And so when you're on the water, traveling horizontally, you know, there's a different feeling about that. You know, that water can hold us up. And I remember the last time that I saw Dr. Emoto, I had the opportunity to be with him probably 4 times, and in Mexico, in Minneapolis, in Duluth. And the last time that we were in Duluth, we did a water ceremony together. And what he said was something that I hadn't heard him say in the first 3 times we were together. But what he said was, God is in the water. God is in the water. And we know that, we Ojibway people, we know that when that spirit makes its journey from the spirit world into the womb of the mother, it lives in water. At conception, at conception, we are 97% water. And today, I hope I'm still about 60% water, because, you know, you get below that 50% and it's time to make that journey again. So water is life, right? During Standing Rock, you know, the Lakota people said, you know, everybody heard that. Water is life. And of course, we knew that. We knew that. So, I think, you know, if we can get up every morning, and before you have that first sip of water, maybe it's not water, maybe it's coffee, but it still comes from water, you know, to say thank you. Thank you to the Nibi. I live on a farm, and when I wake up every morning, you know, and I go out on the deck and I look down, you know, towards a tiny little lake, and you know, my goats are already up, and you know, and you look at the beautiful flowers and the beautiful trees, and you know, the maples and the oaks and the apple trees, you know, like you can't help but feel a sense of gratitude, you know, gratitude for being alive. And I think we can learn so much from the plants, from the animals, from the water. We were fortunate this last week, is it last week or the week before? But you know, two of the greatest Native writers today were in town. Rob and Wal Kimmer was able to have lunch with her, and she said, you know, what we have to counter some of the drill baby drill with is plant baby plant. And she said, we must humble ourselves before the plants. And that's absolutely true. Without the plants, you know, we're the only species that cannot survive without everything else. We cannot survive without the plants, the animals, in the water. And then the other person that was here was Leanne Simpson, wonderful writer. How many of you have heard of Leanne Simpson? Yeah. She, if you know, she has written probably 4 or 5, 6 books, and one book is called Walking on Turtles. Is it Walking or Dancing? Either Walking or Dancing on Turtle's Back, and that's a beautiful book. And her latest book is called The Theory of Water, and she talks about a lot about water. And I went to hear her speak, and everything. So I'm halfway through the book, right? And everything she talked about was the first half of the book. I was like, now I have to read the other half of the book myself. But she talks about the creation and about, you know, one of the stories is that Gijigokwe, we in my part of the world, we say it was Nanabuju, but they came down, the earth was flooded, and some of the animals were floating on a turtle's back, and various animals were going to dive down to get a little piece of earth under all the water, but it was finally the little muskrat who went down, and when he came back up, he was, you know, floating, and they took him out of the water, and in his tiny little paw, he had just a little bit of soil, and so they put that soil on the turtle's back, and then Nanabuju walked around and around and around, and every time he went in the circle, the turtle's back got bigger. And finally, it became Turtle Island. And there was a place then for humankind and the animals to live again. And so she talked about that story and about how even the Creator made mistakes. And when she talks about Gijigokwe, when she was on the turtle's back, she studied the turtle, and she saw in that turtle that life is not just created once, but it is created and recreated. So when you look at a turtle's back, you see the 13 moons. And around the edge of the turtle shell, there are 28 markings representing 28 days between each moon. And that is a time of recreation. And so it's a beautiful book. I encourage you to get it. And The Theory of Water. It's a great book. So what we're going to end with here is they asked for a water ceremony, so I'm going to ask my sisters here to to come up and help me. We're going to sing the water song. Well, first, we're going to sing the tobacco song. And because, you know, we have our ways of doing things. And, yeah. And you can't just go straight to the water. First, we have to first we have to offer the tobacco, because in our culture it's Bejugo Sema, tobacco first. Buju Ninindaway Magani Dug, Migwachwendan, Wabanang, Jawanang, and Gabian, Kiwadanang, Migwachwendan, Nimama Ki, Migwachwendan, Ishpaming, Migwachwendan, Minno Bibanis Win, Migwachwendan, Nokomasanan, Migwachwendan, Mishomasanan, Migwachwendan, Geshe Manadu. Migwachwendan, Asema, Migwachwendan, Nibi. So what we're going to do is we're going to, there's some little cups here, and we're going to give you just a little sip of the water. And this is water I've gathered and safe to drink. And just a little bit is medicine. I'm going to ask my sisters to help. So if you would just kind of make your ways up by rows, we will give you a little bit. So if you hand the cups up here, they will hand them to the people. We're going to run out. Sorry, that's it. So we're just going to end with this song, and the song is another water song, and it's a song that my sister and my grandson made years ago, and it says, "Water, we love you, we thank you, we respect you." And this is a participatory song, okay? So it's an Ojibway, but you'll be able to pick it up. And I'll sing it through once, and then we'll try to sing it together. Nibi gizageigu kimi gwachwe nimigu gizaway nimigu. You get that? Nibi gizageigu kimi gwachwe nimigu gizaway nimigu. Nibi gizageigu kimi gwachwe nimigu gizaway nimigu. Okay, last time. Nibi gizageigu kimi gwachwe nimigu gizaway nimigu. Miigwech. Okay.
So thank you, Sharon, and all of our wonderful musicians. So once a month, usually on the third Sunday, we choose an organization or a cause to support through a special collection. And today that organization is the Indigenous Peoples Task Force in support of the Nibi Walk. So I'm going to ask Sharon to say a few more words about the Nibi Walk, and then I'll share information about how you're able to support them. So Sharon.
The Nibi walks are it came out of the Ojibway ceremony, and so when we do the water ceremony, it arose out of that, but it is not that. When we were trying to save Camp Coldwater Spring, the chief of the lodge said, "You Midekwe down in the cities, go help those Dakota people save that spring. It's a special medicine spring." And so we all helped with that. And he said to us, he said, what would happen if all of the women of the world said no more? No more to the municipalities, to the mining companies, to the oil companies, to the corporations who are destroying our water. What would happen if all of the women of the world said no more? And Josephine Mandamaniban, one of my mentors, she said, what can I do? And she said one day she went into a cafe, and this old Indian man was there, and he said, "Bonjour," and she said, "Bonjour," and he said, I saw you walking along Lake Superior. And she said, "Oh," because she didn't know what he was talking about. And he said, "I saw you and your sisters. You all had long skirts on, like we wear in ceremony." He said, you had long skirts on, and you were carrying a copper pail of water, and you were walking along the lake." And she said to herself, "I could do that." So she came to the lodge, and she said, "I want to walk around Lake Superior. Water has to move to be healthy." And we all agreed that was a good thing, and so I was able to start with her and then join her over on the eastern side of the lake near Wawa. And it was fun. It was, they told you where to walk and where to go for lunch, and carried the water some more, and then where to go to sleep that night. And anyhow, Josephine Yvonne, she walked around all 5 of the Great Lakes, and with women helping her. And then in 2010, she came back to the lodge, and she said there was a young woman who had a dream about bringing that healing salt water from the 4 oceans to the heart of Turtle Island at Lake Superior. And what do you think? And of course we all said, yeah, that's great. And so I ended up being the coordinator, carrying the water from Gulfport, Mississippi to Lake Superior. And that's where I met Mariana. She came down and helped me walk down in Arkansas and Missouri. And so we carried that water. We met at Lake Superior, and beautiful ceremony. We commingled all the water. And Josephine said, "How long will it take this water to return to its home?" Who knows how long. But when it does, these waters will confer with all the other waters, and they will let them know that there are still human beings who love and care for the water. And so that was my first walk in 2011. And since then, I've led walks along the Mississippi, the Ohio, and the Missouri. And next year, and many, 24 rivers or something, I don't know, somebody keeps track. But next year what we're going to do is we're going to gather the water in the dead zone, and about 90 miles south of New Orleans. We're going to gather it, and when I was having lunch with Robin Wall Kimmer, there was a woman there who lives in Marina on the St. Croix. And the lab where they test all the water is right behind a place that she owns, and the water lab. And she said she has something she's planning to do with that. But anyhow, I told her, I said, well, we're going to go down there, and we need to test the water, and when we gather it, and then we're going to carry it to Lake Itasca, to the source. And when we get back there, we're going to test it again. And we're going to see what happens to the water when we are carrying it every day, when we are singing to it every day, when we are praying with it every day. What will happen to that water? Now, Mariana says, that's your colonized mind thinking. And I'm like, no. It's everybody else's colonized mind. We're going to show them. We're going to show them that the water can heal itself. And we know that from Robin's book, Braiding Sweetgrass, right? That left to its own device, the water will heal itself. The plants, the earth, the sand, it will heal itself. If we were able to stop everything right now, stop all of the pollution right now, our waterways would return to their pristine condition. But only if we stop. Thank you.
Sure, you'll join me in doing whatever we can to support the Indigenous Peoples Task Force and the Nibi Walk. So today's collection will go entirely towards them unless you designate your donation otherwise. So as the baskets are being passed, we invite you to give generously and joyfully as you're willing and able. Or you can give online, where you can choose to support the Indigenous Peoples Task Force and the Nibi Walk, or this congregation more generally. The QR code on the screen will take you to the online giving form. You can also stop by the office or mail in your donation. And so thank you for your generosity.
Do you want to have some fun? Of course you do. Then you will want to be here in the Upper Assembly Hall on Saturday evening, November 1st, for a special Halloween edition of our popular Coffee House Cabaret. You will enjoy entertainment by members of the FUS community. There could be spooky surprises, and desserts, coffee, and other beverages will be available. We call this getting your just desserts. Admission is free, but donations will be gratefully accepted. See you there.
You can help pack snack bags for college students downstairs. Then come to our weekly mini meal, which today features pasta bolognese, mushroom and vegetable risotto, and braised green beans and tomatoes, and all are welcome. At 12:15, you can take a tour of the building with Bruce. Meet near the Mount Curve entrance, the main doors over here. And later at 5 p.m. today, come join the monthly child and family dinner. On Wednesday at 6:30, there's a film and discussion with Reverend Yulin, and you're welcome to come a bit earlier for the 5:15 Connection Circle and Soup. 2 weeks, Sunday, November 2nd, is Cinnamon Roll Sunday. I don't think I need to say anything more about that. Sunday, November 9th, there's a Foraging for a Future session after the assembly on the topic of covenant. So ask for details or check the Friday update. So now, as Jane comes to extinguish our chalice, please join me in speaking the words on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All of these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again. So now let me share these words inspired by the traditional Quaker song, My Life Flows On in Endless Song by John C. Morgan. In the river, the water continually flows. In the river, the water continually flows on, yet the river is ever there. Our lives flow on in endless song, yet life and joy shall never end. So may it be.